Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Benavides, the instructor for this course. So hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to review my intro video that I posted at the beginning of the course, so that hopefully you'll get to know a little bit more about me. In this video, I plan to talk about the major discussion posts and the major assignments that are due for human behavior in the social environment 2, Social Work 502. And so let's get to it. Please note that while I will be providing an overview of the major projects and assignments for Social Work 502 in this video, this is not the only time that I'll be discussing the assignments, the discussion forums, the presentation, and the clinical vignettes. I will be posting weekly videos where I will discuss the previous week's discussion posts and maybe provide some additional content information. We'll also be discussing, that week's content and as well as discussing the discussion forums and or assignments that are due that week. And I will be answering. So I do encourage you, so let me say this, I do encourage you to email me any questions that you have about any of the assignments, about the course. And typically in my weekly videos, if there is a question that someone has asked about one of the discussion forums or one of the presentation or the clinical vignettes, I will address it in the video as well. I mean, I don't provide the name of the person that emailed me, but rather just, I think that if somebody had a question about one of the assignments, somebody else might have that same question. So I go ahead and go ahead and address it in my weekly videos as well. You can also email me questions about, in addition to the assignments, if extensions, things like that you might need. But definitely do email me. All right, so, okay, so as you know, this is not your first online social work course. So you know that we have weekly discussions. And for week 1, there's discussion on where you do your introductions, your clinical vignette client discussion, and so on and so forth. So those stay the same as they have done for your other classes. Now, we also have a condition presentation. Everyone will be working in groups to do this presentation. The presentations will either be due the Sunday of week 5 or week 6, depending on what presentation that you sign up for. You are able to sign up by the end of week 1 for which presentation, for which mental health condition you wish to present on. As you can see here, these are the options, right? Anxiety, general anxiety disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, anorexia nervosa, bulimia, binge eating, gender dysphoria in children. If you choose one of these, your presentation will be due the Sunday of week 5. If you choose substance use disorder, neurocognitive disorders, or personality disorders, your presentation would be due at the end of week 6. Now, there is a template for the PowerPoint that the group members are to use, okay? So each presentation will include these components: an introduction and a brief 3 to 5 minute video from YouTube of a person with the condition that you have chosen for your presentation, okay? You're to present a summary of a scholarly article related to that condition. So you'll find scholarly peer-reviewed journal article that discusses one aspect of that condition or discusses the condition in general. It is up to you. You will present 3 national website resources and provide a brief tour of each website. This is so that you can, it is important to know what resources are available out there, and this is a way to highlight some different resources that are available to not only our clients, but to us as social workers as we work with individuals that have this diagnosis, and of course provide a page slide that includes references. Okay. Both of so there'll be 2, like I said, 2 individuals per condition, and you will divide up these tasks as you see fit. Your presentation should be no longer than 12 to 16 minutes. You will utilize Zoom or Screencast-O-Matic, which is now ScreenPal, to record your presentation, and then you would upload your presentation as a YouTube video. If you're not sure how to do that, there are instructions in our Canvas course on how to record either on Zoom or ScreenPal and how to upload it through YouTube. Now, the pair of students can either record their presentations in one video together using Zoom, or students can each record their own parts of the presentation and upload to files. So each person of the group might then do their own Screencast-O-Matic video and then upload it as presentation part 1, and the next person is presentation part 2. So it is up to you how you wish to do this. All right, so like I said, if you click here, you're going to see the template for the PowerPoint. Please remember that you have until the Sunday of week 1 to sign up for your condition presentation. Now we move on to the clinical vignette. There's 2 parts to the clinical vignette, and they build on each other. So let's talk about part 1 first. Clinical vignette part 1 is due the Sunday of week 4, and it is 20% of the final grade. So what you're going to do, and you're going to use the DSM-5-TR, which is the DSM version that we're using for this course. And you're going to the first part of this is to choose someone to do this assessment with, this clinical assessment. Select a person whose subculture is different from your own. This should ideally be a current client, could be a previous client. However, it is important that you are aware that you are not to involve the client directly in this assignment. Under no circumstances may you interview, assess, or question a current or past client for the purpose of this assignment. Doing so will result in an automatic 0 and disciplinary action for ethical misconduct. The information that you obtain must come from written records, case notes, and/or your best recollection of the client's characteristics and case details. So if you no longer have access to that person's case notes, written records, then it's going to have to come down to your best recollection of the client's characteristics and case details, okay? If you do not have a current practice case, like I mentioned before, you can use one from the past, or you can use a film, or like a character from a film, a TV show, or from a book. However, if this is something that you need to do, please make sure to send me an email so we can discuss this together, okay? You may not use family or friends or do your own assessment. And the Anita and Danny case examples cannot be used for these assignments, okay? So really important to keep in mind. So the writing the vignette has different components. The introduction, data sources, the identifying information. Make sure, though, that you do not use the individual's full name or do not provide any information that could identify the individual. So no identifying information. But please provide, their information such as their age, gender, race, sexual orientation, nationality, religion, those sort of things, education, socioeconomic status, as it states here. However, make sure that it's not anything that could particularly identify this particular individual. Don't make it so detailed or so specific, in other words, okay? The presenting problem, a concise description of the presenting problem. What was the problem the person presented for services? Chief complaint. The history of the presenting problem. The psychosocial history. The current diagnosis and medications, and the actual diagnostic assessment, okay? So if you come to the full assignment page, which is where I'm going to now, there is some additional information here that is going to help you to be able to write this vignette in the detail that is expected, okay? So this right here will lay out what I'm talking about when I mean in terms of, like, for instance, the history of the presenting problem, right? So this is, all of these are the things that you want to include in that section. Psychosocial history, in addition to, like I mentioned previously, the psychosocial history, school, family, major events and experiences. You also want to talk about background of the person's childhood to current age, strengths, supports, and resources. What is your view of the problem, and the current diagnosis and medications, as I mentioned before. And the diagnostic assessment will include the behavioral manifestations, signs, symptoms, risk factors, possible diagnosis. Here to identify 4 possible diagnoses from each of the family categories of diagnoses that we have reviewed so far up until week 4. So neurodevelopmental, schizophrenia spectrum and other psychotic disorders, depressive disorders, and bipolar disorders are what you can choose from. So then for each of the possible diagnoses, match the person's behavioral manifestations, signs, symptoms, and risk factors with a DSM-5 TR criteria for each of the 4 possible diagnoses. You will see what I mean when we look at the Anita example, okay? Be sure to include all the criteria for each of the 4 diagnoses selected. From the 4 possible, you're to provide a provisional diagnosis and 3 differential diagnoses, as well as then having 3 differential diagnoses that you can then rule out. Okay, now that is the first part. And I know I'm really going quickly through this because I'm going to discuss this in the weekly videos as well. I'm just trying to give you a quick overview. For part 2 of the clinical vignette, there is 2 options you can choose from. Now you're continuing using the client from vignette 1. And really, you're going to include the material from vignette 1 up to the diagnostic assessment. So everything that you did, the first part of your assessment in terms of the presenting problem, history, all of those things are the same. That does not change unless there's any new information that you would like to include. Now, there's 2 options here. You're going to reassess the person considering the whole DSM-5 TR, because remember, at this point, you will have gone over the remainder of the diagnoses in the DSM-5 TR. So for option 1, you're either no change to the provisional diagnosis. In this case, fill out the diagnostic assessment of part 2 by copying and pasting the information from the diagnostic assessment from part 1. Or part 2, you're going to change the provisional diagnosis in part 1. And if you do, you're going to also include, you're going to then work through section C. You're going to work through all of these sections below as you can see here, as well as include this summary.